Hey, how's it going, gang? Nate on the Stone here. Welcome back to my channel and to the 56th episode of The Rolling Stone, which I honestly cannot believe that we are on episode 56th. I never would have thought that, that was even in the cards. But we cannot dwell on such pleasantries and such minor mysteries because we have our plates full as usual. And this first story, it's a little bit off the beaten track because it's not a political story. It's not something that I saw on Twitter. It's not a reaction to something that Ben Shapiro said. It's a story that honestly has not been talked about very much, because if it's talked about at all, it's seen as a very local story, and I don't think a lot of people think that it's very important, but obviously, we're talking about it, so it is important. This is the headline from the Roanoke Times, Roanoke being Roanoke, Virginia. Liberty University eliminates philosophy department. That's it. That's the headline. You're probably sitting there thinking, Nate, what does this have to do with anything? Well, if I could get personal for just 1 second, this story hits close to home because you may not know this, but I actually myself graduated from Liberty University in 2016. I was there for 2 years, master's program in the history department, and graduated in 2016 with my master's in American history. While I was there, I took 3 upper division philosophy classes, master level philosophy classes. And I loved those classes just as much as I loved my history classes. Had great professors. We were talking about profound things. We were talking about great thinkers. Whether they were right or wrong, they were all great thinkers. And I came out of that knowing more than when I first started, which is the point of every class. But not only that, that experience really is what sparked my love and my appreciation for philosophy. So I owe those professors, I owe that department a great deal. And now Liberty University has completely gutted it. Before I left in 2015, they had already eradicated the master's program in philosophy. From that point on, people were just going to be able to earn bachelor degrees, but now even that is gone. The entire department has been guillotined. Why? Well, this is what the Roanoke Times says. Liberty University no longer will offer philosophy degrees because of declining enrollment in the undergraduate program, the university announced Tuesday. As a result of the philosophy department's effective shuttering, the university did not renew contracts for 5 professors of philosophy employed with the College of Arts and Sciences. The philosophy department is just the latest humanities program to undergo deep cuts at Liberty. Last year, the university eliminated a dozen positions within the Rawlings School of Divinity in response to dwindling interest in divinity programs. In the last academic year, fewer than 20 students were pursuing philosophy degrees, according to the university. Now that is just, it really, this is going to sound like such a cliche, but that news really breaks my heart. That so few people were pursuing a degree in philosophy, because it's so important. It is so vitally important, especially today, because philosophy, of course, means from the ancient Greek, it means love of wisdom, and that's really what it is. It's not philosophy, properly speaking. It's not to put you into one school of philosophy. Of course, there are numerous schools, almost as many schools of philosophy as there are philosophers. So, you've got Aristotelianism, you've got Thomism, you have Kantianism, you have Cartesianism, right? Under Rene Descartes. You've got Spinozism. You've got Hobbesianism, you've got Lockeanism, you've got all of these. You've got empiricism, you've got idealism, you've got all of these different schools. But at its very root, if philosophy actually does what it is supposed to do. Philosophy is about teaching you how to think. Philosophy really does both things. It ignites the heart, and it ignites the mind, and it ignites the heart. Got my anatomy confused there. It inflames in the heart this thirst for wisdom, this thirst for knowing the truth. And then it gives the mind the tools that it needs to pursue the truth, to go on that quest. That, properly speaking, is what philosophy is supposed to do. So the fact that fewer than 20 people were actually enrolled in philosophy degrees, on the track to get a philosophy degree at Liberty last year, it's heartbreaking. And it says a lot about the culture today, doesn't it? Not very many people actually want to have the tools, to get the tools needed to think for themselves. Not very many people do. A lot of people like to think that they are, independent thinkers. That's becoming sort of a catchphrase, especially on the right today. Oh, we're independent thinkers. We're independent thinkers. But I'm not so sure if people who describe themselves as independent thinkers, I'm not so sure if some of them are really independent thinkers or if they just like the sound, how independent thinker sounds, if that makes any sense. I think some people think that it sounds really good. It's kind of an affectation for them. I should know because I had affectations about 8 years ago. I was calling myself, I'm a libertarian. I'm a libertarian. Now, I had very little idea about what libertarianism actually was, okay? I just knew a couple of people in politics and out who described themselves as libertarian, and they said, it's about this, 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 and this. Oh, well, yeah, cool. That's what I am too. And then I actually sat down and I started reading libertarian websites. I started reading libertarian arguments and other things too, especially one of my heroes, Russell Kirk. And then very quickly I was like, no, I'm not a libertarian. Thanks, guys. Sorry, but I don't belong here. Okay. I think that might be one of the things that's happening now. A lot of people, especially in this environment where thought crime is real now. If you disagree with what the elites and what the ideologues on the left say, you are guilty of thought crime. In that environment where you must believe this, you must kiss the ring on these issues, you must pledge your allegiance to this, drink your trough to this. In that sort of environment, independent thinking, it does sound, it sounds very sexy, if I can say it. It sounds very rebellious. Sounds very cavalier, romantic, adventurous. But I'm afraid that a lot of people who describe themselves as such might just be describing themselves as that. But they're not really independent thinkers. Either they don't want to take the time to actually sit down and get the tools for critical thinking to inflame in their hearts, a passion for the truth. Or they have no idea where to begin because nobody is teaching them. Nobody's telling them. That's the first thing that this shows. But the second thing that this shows is the power. To kind of build off of my first point, I said, it was a sign of the times, right? Not very many people going into philosophy. Not very many people going into the humanities. People are going into law, to medicine, to physics, to communications, computers too. Still, digital stuff now. That's where people are going into. That's where the money is, right? To build off on that point, it also shows how powerful the zeitgeist is. Because here you have Liberty University, which promotes itself, heralds itself as this bastion against progressivism, right? It is an openly private Christian university. It started out actually as Southern Baptist University, and then I forget exactly when it became Liberty University to sort of expand its base. Like, we're not just for Southern Baptists. If you're Catholic or Jewish or Methodist or Lutheran or whatever, you can still come in, right? Not only that, but Liberty University is number 3 of the most prominent conservative educational institutions in the country. Okay, so of the top conservative colleges or universities in the United States, Liberty is at number 3. Okay, that's not bad. And here we have that institution, this institution which declares itself to be at the forefront of fighting progressivism, the ideologues of the left. They have gotten rid of their philosophy department. They have said, okay, they have basically agreed with the zeitgeist that critical thinking doesn't matter. The wisdom of the ancients, the thoughts of the great thinkers, they don't matter anymore. They're not important. Now, some people might be saying, well, what were they going to do? What were they going to do? Fewer than 20 students were actually enrolled in the philosophy department. Fewer than 20 students were actually earning philosophy degrees. And I admit, okay, that is definitely something that has to be taken into consideration. I will fully admit here that I am not an administrator. I don't even know what the answer would be, but it seems to me, and again, being a Monday morning quarterback here, so feel free to disagree with me, but it seems to me that there should have been some sort of compromise to be made. Maybe you cut down the department again to only 3 professors, or 2, and then others are just on a part-time basis. Again, I don't know what the logistics of like that would have worked, but it seems to me that if you really believed that philosophy, critical thinking, teaching people how to think was important, especially in the time that we're living in, if you really thought that, then you would do anything and everything you could to save that department. Okay, because it's not as if the money isn't there. Liberty University has a ton of money. When Jerry Falwell Sr. died, he was insured for I forget how many millions and millions of dollars. And that's really, when he died, I heard actually when I was there, someone once said, and they said, no disrespect to Dr. Falwell Sr., but his death was the best thing that ever happened to Liberty, because all of a sudden when he died, when those insurance policies kicked in, Liberty was just inundated with dough. The 2 years that I was there, 2014 through 2016, they were constantly building. They were building new dormitories. They were building the Liberty Tower. I remember right before I got there, actually, they had just finished building a library. I mean, it was a beautiful library. The most beautiful one that I have ever seen. 4 floors, filled with books and just everything. Here's something. The library had used to be, before I got there, it had been in the basement of the administration building. That's where the library was. So the money's there, but a lot of the money is being funneled to the sports departments. Okay, their football team, their baseball team, let's see, I think they have a soccer team. I know they have a basketball team. They've got a hockey team too, I know. Or at least they used to. So very big with sports. And they have, Liberty, the administration has made this decision to expand its roster, to keep getting more and more people in. They have really poured a lot of money into the sports departments on equipment, fields, coaches, training, and everything. So that, hey, you played football in high school, well, come on over here, maybe you can get a football scholarship or something else. So they funneled a lot of money into that. And okay, fine, but couldn't there have been something to save the philosophy department? It just seems like this wasn't a problem of money. This wasn't really a problem of money. And then, not only that, but Liberty has a huge promotion. They do this huge promotion for their sports. They really put their sports front and center. They put their nursing school front and center. They put their law school front and center too. In fact, Liberty, they build a replica of the Supreme Courtroom. Okay, the inside of the Supreme Courtroom, like where the justices, the 9 Supreme Court justices sit, they built a replica of that so that their law students can practice, do mock trials with the Supreme Court. They can argue cases before a mock Supreme Court. So they do a lot of stuff to promote their sports, their law school, their nursing school, and everything. Why can't you do that with the philosophy department? You've got brains, you've got people in communications, you've got communication professors, you've got the best equipment that you can. You can make philosophy fascinating for people because it is. Because it is. It is fascinating once people realize that it's not just opening huge dusty books and reading very tiny print in Greek or Latin. It's a fascinating field, and it's a necessary field. You could have done a great promotion to get people in, to encourage it, to build up that love for it. You could have done something. The fact that Liberty just it sounds like just keeled over and just decided on the snap of a finger, okay, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to fund the philosophy department anymore because according to the Daily News, which also wrote about this story, the 5 philosophy professors who had been let go said no, there was no warning that this was going to happen. They just sent out an email and said, effective June 30th, your department is not going to exist anymore. So by rolling belly up on this issue as it did, it seems to me like there wasn't really much willpower to save the department, which means that they really don't believe in critical thinking. They don't believe in philosophy, which is a much bigger problem because, again, like I said, Liberty is at the forefront of Christian education and conservative universities. And if the number 3 conservative university in the United States doesn't really think that philosophy and critical thinking and knowledge of the ideas, the great ideas of the past, if they think that it's not important, what does that mean to the rest of the conservative movement? The message that it sends is that it's not really that important. We don't need to know what Aristotle said. We don't need to know what Augustine thought. We don't need to know what the pre-Socratics thought, what Plato thought, what Aquinas thought, what Occam thought, what anyone thought, okay? Because, I don't know, we've got Ben Shapiro or something. You don't win a culture like that. You can't. Okay? Not to say that Ben Shapiro is superfluous. There's a place for him, but there has to be a place for the ancients as well. And the message that we've gotten so far is that there's not. And that's something that's going to have to change if the conservative movement wants a chance at actually turning this Titanic around, presuming that we haven't already hit the iceberg. That is story number 1.